You're listening to Simply the Best Sports Take, the best podcast breaking down the best stuff in sports with host Sean Bingham. His takes are so good, he dropped the mic, but then you wouldn't be able to hear him, and that would suck.
Welcome into STB Sports Take, Simply the Best Sports Podcast. I am your host, Sean Bingham. Hope you had a fantastic Memorial weekend. We had all sorts of stuff going on in the NBA. It was phenomenal. I was actually out in Memphis for Game 3 of the Jazz-Grizzlies series. It was a ton of fun. We're going to dive into all of that. We were on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor Podcasts, everywhere you get your podcasts. We are there. Thank you for being here. Please subscribe. Whatever platform you're on, please hit that subscribe button. I greatly appreciate it. Please share the podcast with your friends. We've got all sorts of piping hot takes for you today. We're going to go through all of the series in the NBA playoffs and give you some really good insight on each of them. You can actually look at the description of whatever platform you're watching or listening on, and you can see the timing at which I hit different segments. So feel free to skip ahead, skip back, whatever you need. So we got to start, of course, with the Jazz and the Grizzlies. So I was out there in Memphis. I had like a bunch of typical, kind of trips planned for Memorial Day, and I just thought, I want to do something different. Let's just go out to Game 3. So me and a buddy, Dave Glauser, loyal listener to the podcast, we just flew out, really like we decided the night before, and then the next morning we flew out to Memphis, and we got there Saturday. I landed just before tip-off, about 2 hours before tip-off, grabbed some food on Beale Street. People were extremely nice to us. We were decked out in Jazz gear. Everyone was really, really nice to us. We actually made it on TV, by the way. But it was kind of funny because they aired it last night for Game 4, but it was footage that was definitely shot as we walked into Game 3, and then they used it on TV last night for Game 4, so kind of funny. But everyone was very nice, and we had a ton of fun out there. But Game 3 was a very crucial game for the Jazz, right? I mean, it was one that I was thinking, okay, we can't go down 2-1 to these guys. Like, losing Game 1 was one thing without Donovan Mitchell. We overlooked them. We were overconfident, whatever. Let's go ahead and win 4 straight now for that gentleman's sweep. And we win Game 2. So Game 3 I was really interested to see. First game back with Mike Conley. And we ended up getting a nice win. A good win in Game 3. Good win again last night. I was very happy to see that. But one of the things that happened in Game 3 I interacted with Sarah Todd. She writes for the Deseret News here in Utah on Twitter. And she had said, I hate to say this, or it's not my job to sugarcoat things, but this crowd's way louder than Vivint Arena is in Utah. And I was at Game 3, and they were pumping in all sorts of bogus crowd noise through their speakers, like so much so that it was like really awkward. It was very loud, mistimed frequently. We were like, they'd get a rebound and be dribbling it back down up court, and then like you start to hear all this crowd noise, and we're like, where's that coming from? Like, what's going on? Are they cheering because they got past half court? Like, what's so exciting right now? But whoever was running that board of like when to hit the cheers was a little off, and it was like there was a humming, like a buzzing white noise, crowd noise the entire game through the speakers. And then of course they have the different levels, like, oh, this is a moderate cheer, this is an intense cheer. And so I'm not buying that they're louder than Utah is at all. Not that it even really matters. It's like this, it kind of does. It's fun to argue like which fan base is the loudest. Utah is known as being at least one of the loudest, if not the loudest in the entire NBA. But I can assure you, having been there, the Grizzly fans were lit. They were fun, but they were pumping in massive amounts of bogus crowd noise. And I think that should be illegal at this point. I get that we had to do it a little bit during COVID because there weren't any fans. And it was like maybe a little awkward. And then you're like maybe picking up some F-bombs on camera, that you don't want being heard on TV, stuff like that. But we're getting big crowds in these arenas now, which I'm loving, by the way. It was so fun to be in a big arena with a lot of people. They were like at capacity, I think, pretty much for Game 4. The Mavericks are pretty much at capacity now. So I think pumping in the crowd noise should be illegal. Like, if you can't get fans in seats and generate real crowd noise, you should not have the home court advantage of fake crowd noise. So that's just my opinion. Okay, so a couple takeaways from Game 3. So first off, I said that I predicted that the Jazz would end up playing the Warriors, which they did not. When I saw that we were going to play the Grizzlies, I thought we'd sweep. Maybe go 5. It looks like it will be 5. We'll probably finish them off tomorrow night. I will be at Game 5, by the way, in Utah. But Dillon Brooks in Game 3 was talking trash to everyone, especially Mike Conley. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, what is wrong with this guy? Like, dude, this guy is the greatest player in your franchise's history. Literally, like, think about the history of the Grizzlies. Who do they have that's better than Mike Conley? Nobody. I mean, maybe Mark Gasol. I mean, I don't freaking know. Like, Mike Conley is literally the face of that franchise still. John Morant now is becoming it. But to disrespect a guy that A, is like a super nice, cool guy, an all-star, he's a seasoned veteran who's like your elder, if you will, and he built the franchise that you are a part of now. I found that really, really bizarre and really disrespectful. And Dillon Brooks is just one of the most easy guys to not like that I've ever watched play basketball. And he, I've heard a lot of these announcers like, oh, he's a dog, I love him. I do not. And maybe it's just because I'm a Jazz fan, but he is a super annoying player in a lot of ways. He's kind of like a fake tough guy, like pounding his chest and being all cool and bad. And I don't know. I'm not digging it, but Conley really took it to him. They got into it a little bit. Conley went 7 of 10 from 3 in that game, had 27 points, 8 assists, 6 rebounds. Hit a bunch of big threes again last night. In fact, I'm going to pull up the box score right now while I'm thinking about it. Last night, Conley, I know he hit a bunch of big threes. Let's see what his box was. He only had 11, but yeah, he was 3 of 4 from 3. 3 of 4. So, and they were kind of critical threes, right? Like they were crucial dagger threes. Only took 6 shots, was 3 of 6. All 3 of those shots, all 3 of those makes being from 3. Donovan last night didn't shoot very well, 8 of 22. Clarkson finally did some good. Jordan Clarkson's an interesting one. Jordan Clarkson last night, 8 of 18, 24 points. Our brand of basketball is open looks. Pass, 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 ball movement, ball movement, ball movement. Get to the open look. They were showing this thing on ESPN last night about how, on SportsCenter, about how, 8 of the Jazz makes were, open looks, like as if the Grizzlies weren't playing good defense. No, that's not at all what was happening. The Grizzlies were scrambling, hustling as hard as they could to play good defense, but the Jazz ball movement is so freaking good that you can't keep up with it. You can't keep up with everybody. We just pass, 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 pass. And we have so many shooters at the perimeter that can hit. So many people that can hit a 3, threatening you at all times, at all angles of the floor. And that is Jazz basketball. And Jordan Clarkson comes in, and he's kind of a black hole. The ball just sticks with him. There was one last night where they're kind of in transition. He's got Rudy wide open underneath the hoop. There's no one within 7 or 8 feet of Rudy Gobert. And Clarkson doesn't pass it to him. He dribbles into traffic and kind of gets hung up, stuck, and nothing happened on the possession. And I'm like, dude, Clarkson, I get it. You're 6th man of the year. I get it. You can score in bunches, but you got to come in and play Jazz brand of basketball at least a little bit more. I don't know if Quinn Snyder is having this conversation with him. It feels like he's probably not. It feels like Jordan Clarkson's role is to go out there and just fire away. I would like to see him change that a little bit, just a little bit. I get it. Let's create some instant offense. Let's let him go off the dribble. Let's let him do his thing. But I would like to see him pass the ball a little bit more. Try and get a couple of assists here or there, especially when you've got guys wide open. I mean, he misses open looks all the time just because he's head down dribbling. And that is not Jazz basketball. Jazz basketball is move that ball like a freaking hot potato until somebody that can hit a 3 is wide open and take that wide open 3. That is our brand of basketball. And Clarkson can penetrate. I would love to see him drive and dish, because it just comes around anyway. He'll end up getting his open looks as well. So to me, that is Jazz basketball. But Jazz are looking really good. I'm excited. John Morant had a note here. He mentioned earlier this year that he thought he was a top 5 point guard, which I disagreed with and still do. But I will say this series, he is impressing me. The kid is super talented. Last night's game was by far his worst of the series, and he still had 23 points and 12 assists. And that was his worst game of the series. In fact, he was the 4th player in NBA history. This happened in Game 3 on Saturday. 4th player in NBA history to drop 100-plus points over his first 3 playoff games. The other guys to ever do that, Wilt Chamberlain, George Mikan, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Ja Morant. Those are the 4 that have scored over 100 points in their first 3 playoff games of their career. Ja Morant is the truth, and I think we have a rising superstar in him. So, yeah, I think that's it for the Jazz and Grizzlies series. Again, Game 5 tomorrow night. I think we'll see the Jazz close them out, and I'm going to get into the Jazz opponents, which will likely be the Clippers now. Yes, that's right. I am just wearing my flip-flops to the beach back and forth on this series. We had it originally. So I originally said Clippers in 6, or Clippers in 5, excuse me. Then they lose games 1 and 2 at home, and I'm just like stoked. I'm like, yes, let the karma gods just rain down, terror on the Clippers for tanking at the end of the season, losing to the Rockets and the Thunder. Well, now they're the ones laughing at me because they were down 30-11 early in Game 3 to the Mavericks on the road, and they come storming back, win that game, blow the Mavericks out in Game 4, and now all of the momentum has shifted to Los Angeles. They have a Game 5 tomorrow night, and the Clippers are clearly in control. Luka's got an injury, supposedly. Porzingis is not playing well at all. In fact, I did want to pull up Porzingis' stats. Porzingis is an all-star caliber player. Porzingis should be playing better than he is. Luka needs help. Luka is playing at that MVP level that we saw him. I expected Luka to be the MVP this year from last season, right? As the season progressed, I realized he was not going to be MVP and was not playing at that level. But in these playoffs, he is. The guy is balling out, dropping 40-plus regularly, hitting big threes. Last night only scored 19. But Porzingis, 7 of 12 for 18 points, and it was a minus 21 on the box score on Sunday night. Minus 21, 5 rebounds, 0 assists. You're 7'3", dude. 5 rebounds at 7'3". You've got to step up, especially when your guy's hurt. If Luka's hurt, step up. So I'm pretty disappointed in Porzingis. I'm sure the Mavericks are as well. You might put that on coaching a little bit. They've got to do something to get him going, especially if Luka is hurt, because the Mavericks can beat the Clippers. They can. They did it in the first 2 games in Los Angeles. If Porzingis will just play up to his ability, they could win this series still. I don't think they will. I actually think this is over in 6 now. I think it's Clippers in 6. The Clippers just dominated the last 2 games so thoroughly that it almost felt like Luka was semi-faking his injury just to set himself up for hey, I was hurt, my neck. It feels like the Mavericks' confidence is just plummeting right now. The Clippers' confidence is skyrocketing. Kawhi's playing tremendously well. Kawhi last night, 29, was a plus 27 in the box score, 11 of 15 from the field. So he's playing extremely well. So to me, this is what I thought would happen originally when the series started. Then the Mavericks pleasantly surprised me with that 2-0 early lead, and now they've just given it all back. The home team has lost every game in this series. Very bizarre. Kind of like when I went to 2 games of the World Series 2 years ago when the Astros were playing the Nationals, and the Nationals won, but I went to 2 games in D.C. and they lost both of them. But that one went 7, and the home team lost every single game for all 7 games. It was super bizarre. That's what's happening now with this Mavericks-Clippers series, and I hope that the Mavericks win. I want, and we're seeing another thing that I'm going to mention here is the Lakers and the Suns. We're seeing now Anthony Davis hurt, and Anthony Davis goes down against a lesser team, like maybe the Blazers or somebody that's not the Suns or the Jazz or the Clippers, one of those top 3 teams, even though the Nuggets, I know, are the 3 seed. If the Lakers would have played a real season and not sandbagged for the playoffs, this little injury happens to AD. He misses a game 5 or 6. And you can afford that in the first round if you've got a high seed and you're playing a Blazers or a Grizzlies or somebody like that. But or even the Mavericks for that matter. But when you're playing, the Suns, the 2 seed, well, now it looks like the Lakers might be in trouble. And I kind of want them to lose. I want the Clippers to lose. I want karma to come back and bite them. I want the NBA to learn you don't sandbag for the playoffs. Seeding does matter, because guess what? If you're sure the Lakers are the better team than the Suns. I get that. But without Anthony Davis, they're not. They're not without Anthony Davis. But they would be better than the Grizzlies or the Blazers or the Nuggets even, I would say, without Anthony Davis. They could beat those teams. And if they had a higher seed because they didn't sandbag, waiting for guys to just rest up, get healthy, in quotes here, get healthy. So I want that to happen because I want teams to learn a lesson. I want the whole league to learn a lesson. Hey, you know what? Seeding does matter because we lost in the first round because AD had to miss 2 games or whatever it ends up being. He's going to miss tonight's game for sure. And I want them to get what's coming to them. I don't know about that. I want them to pay the price of disrespecting the regular season. That's what I would like. Okay, so Clippers and Mavs. I think you're going to see the Clippers win the next 2, unfortunately, but hopefully not. Hopefully Porzingis can step up and help Luka out a little bit. Just sticking with that Suns and Lakers thing. So AD goes down. DeAndre Ayton, by the way, is dominating this series, averaging 20 points, 14 rebounds, shooting 81% from the field. Okay, he's dominating the series. I said Lakers in 6 on this one. That still looks to be very possible. Tonight's Game 5 is monumental. And this is huge for LeBron's legacy. This is a legacy type game because the Lakers with LeBron, but without AD, they're just 1-6 this year. 1-6. That's how important Anthony Davis is. But this matters for LeBron's legacy. These are the types of games and series that Michael Jordan would win. Kobe Bryant would win. I can think of countless times when Michael Jordan had a very banged up Scottie Pippen or was even missing Scottie Pippen or Pippen's a shell of himself, out there on the court holding his back or whatever. And the Bulls would still win because Michael Jordan would score 50 points or 45 points. And that was when the teams were scoring like 90. So he was scoring like half the team's points. That would be the equivalent of somebody scoring 60 in today's game, okay? That's what Michael Jordan was doing. And he would do that at the critical moments. This is a time for LeBron to step up and be like, look, I'm the greatest in the game today. I'm going to win this for us single-handedly. If he can't beat Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, and Chris Paul with 0 finals appearances between them, he has more playoff games than their entire team combined, okay? LeBron James does. This is his chance to do a legacy type game. And I was thinking about, I'd mentioned last podcast how nobody fears LeBron like they did MJ. And I thought about it with you saw Crowder. Crowder gave like a hard foul on LeBron the other night, and LeBron half turns to him. Doesn't fully turn to him. He half turns to him and yells, "Get the F off me," okay? But he doesn't even fully turn to him, doesn't even make full eye contact. LeBron himself is scared of being an enforcer, is scared of being the alpha almost. I can think of so many occasions where Michael Jordan is standing over 2 Knicks players after they fouled him hard and he just got an and one, just screaming at them, like telling them who's in charge, like striking fear into them. You will fear me, you will respect me, and you will fear me. LeBron doesn't do that. LeBron doesn't do that at all. And as a result, nobody's scared of LeBron. Maybe the Raptors were back in his Cleveland days a few years ago, but nobody right now is scared of LeBron on the Lakers. They're just not. And they were scared of MJ. I can think of MJ going toe-to-toe, nose-to-nose, face-to-face with Gary Payton, with Xavier McDaniel, just barking at them in the playoffs, like really, really striking fear into them. LeBron doesn't do that. He's Mr. Nice Guy. Oh, Draymond hates me. I'm going to be business partners with him this summer. That's LeBron. So those are big mind tricks. There's so many intangibles I've been thinking about that Michael Jordan had that are overlooked, that people just don't get. And to me, that is one of the biggest ones. That his mental power he had over you was out of this world. Nobody felt like they truly had a chance against him, and that's why he just won year after year after year after year. The one time they did think they had a chance was when he came back from baseball, and he was clearly not the same player. People had confidence, and they beat him. And the next year, 72-10, greatest team of all time. So anyway, to me, LeBron needs to step up and be a little bit tougher. He needs to not be scared of the foul line, and he needs to take charge in this series and go see what he can do. CP3 was hurt. He looks like he's back. He had a great game not last night, but 2 nights ago. So to me, the Suns, without Anthony Davis, the Suns are winning this series. He's for sure missing Game 5. We'll see what LeBron can do. If he comes back for Game 6 and 7, even if the Lakers lose tonight, I'd still give them a good chance to win Game 6 and 7. But if they lose tonight and he still isn't back for Game 6, it's over. It's for sure over at that point. But this one's in Phoenix. Huge game. I'm very excited for tonight's game. This will be a big one. But one thing I did want to mention in LeBron's, a couple things here. Okay. Anthony Davis is hurt frequently. And we look at the Nets star, so they've been hurt frequently this year. And LeBron has been hurt a little bit this year and last. I do think a lot of it was him kind of sandbagging to be healthy for the playoffs this year. And last year, or not last year, but 2 years ago when he got hurt, I think it was honestly him packing it in and not wanting to waste his legs and energy or season on a team that had no chance of doing real damage in the playoffs. But aside from those two seasons, 2 years ago and this year with LeBron, he's the most durable. He's literally indestructible. And I think that durability is vastly underrated because Anthony Davis, when healthy, is a top 5 player in this league. But he's rarely healthy. So at that point, it's like, well, what can we do with this guy? Like, I get it that he's mega talented, but if he can't play, like, it doesn't really matter to us how talented he is. And so I think that it's a huge testament to LeBron that in year 18, at age 36, he still is out there night after night playing at a very, very high level. So I did want to give him props for that because I think durability in today's game especially is very underrated. So Anthony Davis, he needs to kind of gut this out, figure it out. I don't know what he's got to do. I don't know how bad the injury is. It looks like he's day-to-day, but today he is out, so we'll just have to see. Another thing I wanted to mention, the Lakers, I've said this a few times throughout this season, the Lakers are one of the few teams, if not maybe the only team in the NBA, that plays more of a 90s brand of basketball. They've got Andre Drummond, Anthony Davis, Montrezl Harrell, LeBron James. Those guys are all like 6'9" and up, 7 feet, 7'1", 6'10", big dudes, okay? They play a big man, and they suck at three-point shooting. As a team, they're one of the worst in the league at three-point shooting percentage. And so I'm interested to see, can it work in today's game? Because today's game is all about the three-point shot. It's all about the three-point shot. And a couple of years ago, even just, you go back just 5 years is all, it almost seemed like, this isn't going to work. Like you need a more traditional brand of basketball. And Steph Curry and the Warriors and Klay Thompson just blew the roof off of that whole idea, right? So I'm interested to see, can the Lakers with this 90s brand of basketball playing the bigs, can they win another championship? Because another thing I'm going to get into is last year's, I've said this before, last year's championship, it's not a fluke, but it's not a true title. It's not. And the fact that the Heat just got blown out, swept in the first round, blowout after blowout, one close game in overtime in game 1, games 2, 3, and 4, not even close. The Heat just absolutely annihilated by the Bucks in round 1. Tells me that last year was indeed a big fat asterisk year. That title is the asterisk title. It just is. And so can the Lakers win in today's style of NBA with their 90s style of basketball going into the bigs? Will they continue to do that? Will they bring Marc Gasol in to shoot some threes? Another thing I wanted to mention here, I've loved watching Caruso become like a legit member of this team, like a key member of this team. I remember watching him 3 seasons ago come in against the Jazz, and everyone was just looking at him and very much judging him, right? He's not super tall, he's white, and he's bald, okay? People immediately were judging him as like, who's this guy? Like, this guy's in the NBA, come on. And then all of a sudden, he's skying for putback dunks, like just throwing it down over top of guys. And we're all like, whoa, like, who's this guy, And now he's this key member of the Lakers, and I love watching it because I actually really like his game. He's very unselfish. He's a decent shooter. He's a hustler. He's very athletic. He's a good passer. He's a very intelligent player, so I've liked watching that. Okay, moving on. Nets and Celtics. I said the Nets would sweep. They did not. They're going to get the gentleman's sweep. They'll finish that off tonight. They're 12.5-point favorites tonight. It's not even going to be close, I don't think. Interesting thing, though, at the end of last game, Kyrie Irving goes out, stomps on the leprechaun, okay? Stomps on Lucky Leprechaun at Boston's arena there at half court as the game ends. This guy is such a sore loser, winner, whatever you want to call him. He's just kind of a sissy. He really is. He's just always playing victim. He's always got some sort of why does he hate the Celtics? Because you sucked with them? Because they're better without you? Like, why does he hate them? Because everywhere you go as the number one option, the team's worse than they are when you sit entirely. We've gone over this before on the podcast. Kyrie Irving, as the number one option with the Celtics, was a joke. They were worse with him than they were without him. Kyrie Irving as the number one option in Cleveland before LeBron got there, granted he was very young, was a joke. They sucked. Kyrie Irving as the number one option in Brooklyn while Kevin Durant was hurt and before James Harden got there, was a joke. They sucked. They were better without him than they were with him. Like it's an undeniable trend with every team he's played on. As the number one option, they are worse. Now, he's not even Robin on this team. He's not. Batman is Kevin Durant. Robin is James Harden. I mean, at this point, Kyrie is freaking the butler. You know, what's his name? Alfred. Kyrie is Alfred, okay? You've got LeBron as... LeBron. Well, LeBron was Batman and Kyrie was Robin on that team. But on this team, Durant is Batman, Harden is Robin, and Kyrie is Alfred, okay? So Kyrie is Alfred, and he knows it, and he hates it. And so that's why he stomps on the logo. I mean, this guy's going through some mental issues. I don't know what's going on, but to me, that was a joke. Such a poor sport. He has zero reason to hate that franchise, like literally none. He was the one that promised them he would come back and then didn't. And he's just bitter that they're better without him. He's just mad. And he's mad that he's not the number one guy on this team. So separate from that, as he's now walking out of the tunnel, a fan throws a bottle at him. Misses him, barely. Gets arrested, gets banned for life, potentially going to face criminal charges, it looks like. What is going on with these fans? You know, in the Sixers-Wizards game last night, a fan runs out onto the court and slaps the backboard, which I admittedly found to be very funny, just watching this idiot. But why are fans... I mean, at least he didn't, try and hurt anybody or do anything. You know, he was just disrespecting the game. Probably drunk. Maybe it was a dare. I don't really know. But the guy that threw the water bottle, what an idiot. Okay, what a freaking idiot. I don't know why people are doing this. We just got basketball back. We just got allowed back into stadiums. Stop ruining it. Just sit back and relax and enjoy the show. Stop trying to ruin it. Even the guy that ran on the court. Yes, I laughed when I saw him jump up and barely slap the backboard because it was like he had achieved some, life goal of his or something to hit an NBA backboard. And then he gets form tackled by the security guard. But to me, it's what are we doing? Let's just knock it off. We had the Russell Westbrook popcorn issue. We had the spitting on Trae Young issue. We had the backboard slapping court runner issue. We had the water bottle thrower issue. Then there was also an issue in Utah where some fans were heckling John Morant's dad. The stuff that I heard was pretty freaking bad. And they were banned for life, I think, as they should be. And to Salt Lake City's credit, even John Morant's dad came out and said, no, there were several fans around him that let him have it and kind of came to John Morant's dad's defense, I guess. So, but I'm just what are we doing as fans? Are we why are people so out of control right now? Is it because we haven't been allowed in stadiums for so long and so we're just acting up, looking for attention? I don't know. But I wish they would stop because the last thing we need is for the NBA to have a reason to distance, fans further and further from the players. Because that's what makes it fun. That's what makes basketball so fun is you're right on top of it. I've been to soccer games where they have a moat around the entire field separating the fans. We don't want to get to that point with the NBA where it's oh, now we got to sit 50 feet back. No, it's fun to be right on top of the game. So stop acting up. Be normal human beings. Be respectful, okay? These are human beings. You can't throw stuff at them or spit on them. If you did that in real life, they would literally kick the crap out of you within 2 seconds. So don't do it, just because there's security around, okay? So, yeah, I hate it. I hope we can see it stop. It seems like at every game there's just something new happening, but hopefully we've reached the end of it. We will see. All right, other series to wrap up with here. Wizards and Sixers, I said it would be Sixers and 5. Looks like that'll happen, although Embiid is hurt. Again, a testament to guys that have durability. Hawks and Knicks, interesting thing I wanted to mention here. The Knicks, so I originally said Knicks and 6. I immediately amended to Hawks and 6. I feel very good about that. Game 5 is in New York, and so it's 3-1 lead for the Hawks. We'll see what happens. But the Knicks have said they are exclusively selling tickets to vaccinated people for round 2. And I immediately commented on every post I saw about this on Instagram. Well, that's fine because there won't be a round 2 for the Knicks, okay? And there will not be a round 2 for the Knicks. And I want to talk about that vaccination thing. If people want to get vaccinated, they should. If they don't want to, I don't think they should have to. It's kind of the Knicks' prerogative to sell only to vaccinated people, but kind of not. It's kind of like saying it's my prerogative to rent, an apartment that I own to whoever I want. But it's kind of no, it's not. You can't discriminate, okay? And so to me, to require a vaccination for a basketball game is pretty ridiculous. And you look at what New York City's looks like compared to what other cities look like that have been a little bit more open with things. And it's kind of a joke that they're even talking about it. But you know what? There won't be a round 2 for the Knicks, so it really doesn't matter. Okay, last series, Nuggets-Blazers. I said Blazers in 6. Very pivotal game 5 tonight. The series is tied 2-2. Lillard in their last game went 1 for 10, only had 10 points, and the Blazers won in a blowout. So to me, that's very encouraging if you're a Blazers fan. But again, tonight's game 5 is in Denver. We'll see what happens there. Last thing I want to touch on, TNT is so much better than ESPN. I was texting a buddy, and we were talking about how, ESPN literally just is tanking. Like, their commentary is bad. SportsCenter is bad. Their talk shows aren't as good. Like, nothing about ESPN even holds a candle to TNT or Fox Sports. That's my honest opinion. Nor does it hold a candle to STB Sports Take. That is today's podcast. Good luck to all your teams tonight. I am out. Peace.
Thanks for hanging with Simply the Best Sports Take. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and check out stbsportstake.com. Simply the best in sports.